On Zoom to mute yourself if you're not speaking. Good evening and welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas regular council meeting for Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order. I have a motion. Let it resolve that council rise and reconvene in an open session at 6 p.m. and that council direct administration to carry out actions as specified in the closed session. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, number 3, confirmation of agenda. Any additions, deletions, or amendments? Deputy Mayor St. Pierre.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. I'm just wondering, under the action items, if we could just move action item E to after B, so it would replace C or go in front of C and D. It just, I'm declaring a conflict of interest for B and E, and instead of me doing my exercises up and down, it'd just be up and down once.
So we will reorganize action requests to go 8A, B, E, C, D. Thank you very much. Any other additions to the agenda? Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broaden. Through you, we'd like to add a report FS 2024-02. This item is going to be added under the bylaw category. And the report is the OMERS normal retirement age report.
And what's the bylaw number?
2024-47.
47, thank you. Any other additions, deletions? Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. Can we please pull item C from consent and place it in discussion?
Letter from the Youth Climate Action Group?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move C to discussion items. Any other additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion. Let it be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas approve the agenda as amended. Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Item number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Deputy Mayor St. Pierre.
Yeah, so just as I mentioned, action items, go back, B and now, well, E still.
Correct.
Because I am employed by the engineering company that's providing them engineering services.
Very good. Thank you. Any other disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, moving to number 5, adoption of minutes. I have a motion. Let it be resolved that the minutes of the meeting, including closed session, be adopted as presented. The meeting minutes for June 24th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 3 delegations tonight. We'll move to 6A, Rogers Communications Tower. We have Christian Lee joining us on Zoom. Go ahead, Christian. Could you just pause for 1 second, Christian? Your volume is just halfway. We're just going to try and make an adjustment here. Sure, just hold 1 second here. Okay, go ahead and try now.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Should I start over?
No, I think we did hear you at the start there, but
Okay.
just,
Sounds good. Okay, so just, I'll do a brief overview and then we can have questions and we can expand on any details you like. So the tower that's being proposed is a 60-meter self-support tower for Rogers Communications as part of the Eor and Cell Gap project. One of the final ones in this phase as part of the 300-ish towers across eastern Ontario are part of that project. The public consultation period has come to a close. Rogers mailed out fulsome notification packages to the property owners in the immediate area surrounding the tower property. And we also placed notices in both the Chesterville and Morrisburg newspapers. As a result, we only heard from one member of the public about the project, and it was actually someone who said that they were interested in potentially buying the property where we're proposing the tower, and asking if there was an opportunity to back out of the lease agreement that's in place. That isn't an option. I'm not sure where the details went from there, but they're hoping to be able to back it out and suggested some other locations in the area for the tower. Being part of the Eor and Cell Gap project, the siting of these towers is super specific, for lack of a better word, because they do need to interconnect with all of the other towers within the project. So we're pretty limited in terms of the area where this tower needed to be. And the basic area was right around Princeton. We actually first started looking at more agricultural properties, but the problem we ran into is that most of the ones in that immediate area already have wind turbines on them. And the terms of those agreements that the EDPR, the turbine company, has with the landowners is that any other development on the property requires their approval. And unfortunately, despite a lot of effort, we weren't able to get any sort of discussion with them at all. So we weren't able to explore any of those properties. So ultimately, the property that we have, we feel is a good one. There's reasonable setback from neighboring residences. It's not right in the town there. And ultimately, any other properties to put the turbines weren't an option in the first place. So that's kind of the high level, and happy to answer any questions council has.
yeah, thanks, Christian. Quite a report, lots of details in the report. Any questions, comments from council team? Deputy Mayor. take it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. And this is more of a curiosity question than anything. And obviously the answer is yes, but I would have thought with the turbines being so close, that doesn't have any impact on the reception to and from your tower?
No, we actually, we have some that are quite close to wind turbines on other properties across, as far as I know, in Ontario anyway, there are probably others across the country, but yeah, no, there's not much. There's obviously, they need to have a little bit of setback, but there's no interference that I've heard of.
Thank you. Well, not many questions for tonight, Christian, so thank you very much. Certainly appreciate, and Deputy Mayor and I certainly continue to get presentations through EORN and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus about all the cell services, and certainly appreciate better service for our residents and our visitors through the municipality with cell service. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Look forward to future business.
Thank you for having me on. I have to say I enjoyed watching the total eclipse from parking lot in your beautiful town of Princeton there. So
Great. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it for sure. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, moving to delegation 6B, OPP delegation. Community Mobilization Officer Jim Blanchett is with us tonight. Welcome, Jim.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council, and of course staff. It's always a pleasure to be here. I've provided you with the OPP report for the almost first 6 months of the year. And quite pleasing, the results of, our analysis show in every area except one we're down for property crime, violent crime. What is concerning, though, is frauds. Significant increase, and that continues to be a problem to the residents of our township. We, as the OPP, have done numerous presentations with service clubs, Legion in Morrisburg, Legion in Iroquois as well, but it continues to be a problem. So at some point, we will take that little show on the road and really step up those presentations. Initially, we were mostly targeting seniors because that's what the bad guys do. But I want to assure you, we will continue to make efforts to educate the residents, because it all starts with education and the problem ends with education. So we will be continuing those efforts. A couple of high-profile issues. I'll just speak to them briefly. One is an ongoing court case, so I can't comment. But the residents of South Dundas were obviously deeply disturbed by the incident that happened out at the waterfront here, and as was I, being a resident of South Dundas. I believe everyone is aware we have found the involved parties, and non-violent crimes were bound by the legislation first time to use a diversion system. So people are kind of asking out in the community, why aren't they all charged? Why aren't they all arrested? So with those limitations, which I do believe in, I do support, it's a big drastic example, but young people do make mistakes. They do things that are wrong. The one that was charged, he's receiving a lot of backlash in the community. And the only message that I would like to get out to the community and to council is that sometimes we have to look at what's going on in people's lives, and not making excuses for anyone, but I just want to assure you we've made some connections to community supports and services to assist that individual so that we don't have a repeat of this sort of thing. So they'll still have to answer before the courts for the charges. That's the formal process. But I personally have taken great lengths to make sure we put steps in place to correct that behavior. The other problem that we're getting a lot of calls about speeds on Lakeshore, and some I've received from people in this room, so I'll just address that. I don't want anyone to think that that problem is being ignored. We have targeted that area with radar enforcement, I'm going to say at least 40 times in the last couple of months, and we're not seeing speeds that are overly significant. There's been minimal actual enforcement, but we do know the problem exists, right? People wouldn't be reporting it if it wasn't a problem. So we'll be putting out our sign next week that will alert drivers to the speeds they're operating on, which is just a helpful little reminder. Maybe if they're not, their thoughts are elsewhere and they're not paying attention. So we'll put that out. But we also have a device that will track all speeds, and it's time stamped and tracked. So what we'll do is be able to better position our resources at the right times in the right places, so we'll know what those speeds are. And then the next meeting I'll be able to, or actually I'll do it before that, I'll send it to the staff here. We'll let you know the results of our actions, with the results of what the data shows, but then also, you know, what our enforcement results are. So I don't want anyone to think that we're not addressing the problem. It continues to be a problem, and in particular, it's a scenic little route along there, and we're getting a lot of people who don't live here. So although we can do regular enforcement action, it doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't deter those who aren't aware that we're out there quite regularly. And that kind of ties into another issue. If it's an emergency, obviously, I would encourage everyone in the room, please dial 911. Non-urgent or things that aren't happening at time, I'm going to encourage each and every one of you to reach out to me personally. It just speeds things along, it moves things along, and there's things that I can do that maybe just the person who's responding to your call that's on the road isn't able to help you with. So I've given my card, my information to, I think, most people here. Please, I encourage you. We need to know what's going on out there so that we can put our resources where they're most needed. We can respond to problems, and so please, I would encourage you. A couple of other proactive things we're doing. You're going to see bicycle patrol here in the village in the very near future. It's not because I'm gaining weight and need to be out there, but you're going to see that. So that's a good opportunity. Years ago, when I was at another jurisdiction, we used bicycles all the time. It's a great way to get out, talk to people, be part of the community, and they get a chance to see, you're human, not just a car that goes by with the window rolled up. So you'll be seeing that. We have stepped up traffic initiatives and community services across SDNG. Well, I shouldn't say pretty much. Every officer gets a task every day. So in addition to calls that come in, we're being a little more directive in our approach. So foot patrol, Iroquois Beach, this officer, and we're assigning specific tasks, traffic enforcement at whatever locations we are seeing there's a problem. So those are all efforts that we're putting into place right now, and we're having tremendous success with it. In particular, ride programs. It's something that over the last few years, I don't want to say it wasn't as important. It's always been important and always will be. But impairs were going down. That was the trend, and now we're getting more. So you'll see us out there doing ride programs a lot more. So that's the deterrent side, and we have to keep the residents of our township safe as well. So that's really all I have, but of course open to any questions or comments that anyone may have.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sure we'll have a few questions and comments. I'll start off with, thank you. I think the presence piece is really important. And I'm really happy to see bike patrol and more ride programs, and just being a presence in the community that people that see out and about is a benefit and a help to the community for sure. And I commend the officers that were involved with the waterfront incident and how quickly responded, communicated through with the CEO, and happy with the residents that reported, and so certainly happy. And I know we can't discuss a lot of detail on that, but certainly I always feel to your point, it's it's about what the person does next, right? So what they've done is what they've done. Moving forward, what do they do next, right? And how they can benefit the community in good in the future. So that would be our goal in that area for sure. But I'll open it up for other questions or comments. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. And just got a couple things here I'd like to mention. I think on the waterfront damage, the first question I would have is, do you find that type of nature of the damage is mostly by people that are living in the local area, that it's not somebody coming in from, other areas doing our damage? And the reason I'm asking is because I think the message on this one is, once the word got out, it did not take long to figure out who was doing the damage, right? And I think locally, I think locally, you're right. I agree that there's always a path, there's always a reason and whatnot. But I'm just curious on stuff like this that happens. I'm not talking about people breaking in the stores, because I think that's another level. But it's kind of property damage like that. Do you kind of find it's more of the locals doing it, or is it kind of a wide range of
Very, I would say the vast majority of all property crimes are always done by local people.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean on occasion you won't have somebody come in and damage a bathroom somewhere, a public restroom, whatever. But by and large, these are local people, and we don't like to point fingers at an age group, but let's face it, it's typically younger people who, want to impress their friends or just make bad choices. They're not really thinking through the consequences of their actions. So, in particular in this township, local young people.
A question we debated. I sit on the Iroquois waterfront, and a local gentleman stepped up and said, look, he would be willing to pay for camp cameras, I keep hitting this stupid thing, cameras within at least the Iroquois pathways. And it got us debating, you know, the effectiveness of them, the privacy laws, all that good stuff. So I'm wondering if you could kind of enlighten us on the effectiveness of cameras. You know, I mean, how many times you see it on TV that they got a camera on somebody, but you can't figure anything out because it's blurry and whatnot. So could you just, you know, maybe speak upon that a
Yeah,
little
certainly.
bit?
So cameras are an excellent deterrent, and the signage that goes with them, absolutely incredible deterrent, number one. And number two, some stores, the majority of stores have cameras. I don't even know where they got them. They're so terrible that, yeah, you can't identify the people, whatever. But you can buy a $39 camera on Amazon and have picture perfect at nighttime. So I don't know where they're getting these things, but no, any new modern camera system will make it very, very easy for us to identify. We use that technology every day to solve crimes throughout the counties.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And just my last one, just on the Lakeshore Drive speeding. I get the feeling sometimes what's happening too is it's not so much that people maybe are speeding, but some of the vehicles out there, and I know I drive a Dodge Ram truck with a couple mufflers on its factory, and it's a little bit louder, but some of these stocked mufflers and motorbikes and stuff, and, you know, they're quite loud. So I get the feeling sometimes you're sitting in your living room or you're sitting on your porch and you hear these vehicles go by. It may give a sense of they're speeding, but they're not actually speeding. It's more because how loud they are. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I thought there was kind of and I'm not here complaining and saying we should stop every loud vehicle or anything, don't get me wrong, but I'm just wondering if, is that a nature of the possibility of people thinking we're speeding sometimes, but it's really the nature of how loud the vehicles or the motorbikes or whatever's going by?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's the perception often. During the last council term, the mayor at that time was getting numerous complaints from residents on Lakeshore. So much so that I actually invited the two people that complained the most to run radar with me. And we went out and I had them estimate speed and had a handheld radar, and I would click it and I would ask them to guess their speed, and they weren't as accurate as they thought they might be, and we in fact didn't have a problem on that occasion. So yeah, certainly it's perception, and I've done that in Williamsburg as well, where, you know, the houses are right on the street and there, you know, cars going by, and yeah, it feels like it's in your living room because it is just the sidewalk away from your living room. So certainly I think that's the case, and that's why we're going to use the technology to get a complete answer on this, because
Okay.
when I send the traffic officers out there, I'm not seeing the results as stated in the complaints and concerns. But again, I don't mind the complaints. I encourage people to complain. So, you know, we'll put our resources where the need is, but we're not seeing what they're saying. So yeah, it's probably a lot of that. I also drive a Dodge truck. It's a noisy damn thing. So yeah, that happens, right?
No, but I agree. I think that everybody needs to make you guys directly aware if there's issues or concerns. I mean,
Yeah.
the worst thing you can do is not say anything and then just blame the OPP because they haven't caught any speeders or anybody that has a extra noise vehicle. So yeah, I encourage that as well. Always call in, make sure you guys are aware. It's the only way you're gonna do something is by being aware, so.
Yeah.
I appreciate, okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think, as we've talked quite a bit, we like data. So seeing the data in the future when you do the reports to see what we're at, it's
Yeah.
really important to collect the data. And I do know we're monitoring, Deputy Mayor and myself, through the counties, like the Roads Department, County Road 18 and 31 of the accidents there. So we've had a couple significant accidents there, like County Road 43, County Road 7 back in Chesterville, where they've done some work. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on that. And that's probably an area too that we'd encourage you to keep an eye on, because we do
Yeah,
have.
and I can tell you, we have directed patrols to those areas in response, because we do look at the data. And
Yeah.
that's where the accidents are occurring, and significant ones, obviously, so all the more concerning, yeah. We'll continue.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. So last Friday, we saw an increase in the speed limit on the 401 going through South Dundas. I just wonder if you could maybe speak a little bit to if there's any upgraded enforcement happening on that now?
There will be no direct change on enforcement in the area. Our staffing remains the same as it was. In other areas where they introduced the raised speed limit, they've, as a pilot project, the data doesn't support there being a need for additional enforcement. There's no increase in accidents. There's no increase in any problems. Nothing has been identified as being an issue. However, I can tell you, not because of that, but just because of the way we've restructured ourselves, we have 4 traffic management officers assigned to just do traffic in SD&G. And good or bad, depending on your perspective, 2 of those work out of the Morrisburg office right now. So yeah, we're not staffed any different, but it hasn't, other areas haven't demonstrated the need for that, but of course, time will tell.
Yeah, I guess residents and for ourselves, keep an eye on it. It does change Prescott to Kingston, though, it's still at the lower limit, right? So we're kind of in an area where you got to remember it's not the same everywhere. Very good. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you, Constable Blanchard, for joining us. Thank you for the information, and thanks for taking our questions, and look forward to your next visit.
All right, well, thanks very much for having me. Take care. Good night.
Okay, now we'll move to Delegation 6C from MNP. Jamie Pollock is here to share his audit report on the financials of South Dundas.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Most people know who I am, hopefully. I'm Jamie Pollock. I'm a chartered professional accountant and partner with MNP. So I'll just go through the highlights of the financial statements. If there's any questions or concerns or anything that I might have skipped over that you wanted me to go into a little bit further, please stop me and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. If we probably turn to the next page, which is our independent auditor's report, and it is quite lengthy, so I won't go through all the details. You'll see that the financial statements are in draft and our auditor's report is in draft. It's just because we won't release our auditor's report until the financial statements have been approved by council. But as I go through the opinion paragraph, I will state that we are in a position to release the auditor's report once it's approved by council. Now, I'll just go through the first two paragraphs. We have audited the financial statements of the corporation of the municipality of South Dundas, the municipality, which comprise the statements of financial position as of December 31st, 2023, and the statements of financial activities, changes in net financial assets and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In your opinion, the accompanying financial statements presents fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality as of December 31st, 2023, and the results of its operations, changes in its net financial assets, and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So it's a clean audit opinion. That's what you want to hear from us as your auditors. If we turn to the second page after that, on the next page, please. This is your statement of financial position or your balance sheet. It is at a particular point in time as of December 31st, 2023. Your total assets, financial assets, was $16.7 million compared to $15.2 million. Overall increase of $1.5 million. The biggest swing you'll see under cash, the first line item is up at $9.9 million compared to $5.3 million, an increase of $4.6 million or 85%. The biggest change is in the collection of accounts receivable, where the ending balance is $1.7 million, where the previous year's balance was $4.8 million, which represents a collection of those outstanding receivables of over $3 million or 65%. So those funds went right into your bank account during the year. Taxes receivable remained steady at $1.07 million. Long-term investments decreased as you collected on some long-term receivables at 1.9, and your investment in Rideau St. Lawrence Holdings, Inc. and its group of companies just a shy under $2 million. Liabilities total is 14.4 million compared to 15.7 million, a decrease of 1.3 million dollars in the year. The biggest decrease is under accounts payable, which is timing of your trade payables, payroll, holdback payable for ongoing construction projects, which is 1.3 million compared to 1.9 million, a decrease of $607,000. With the collection of accounts receivable from the year, you use those funds to help pay down your payable balances. Another decrease is under municipal debt. It's at 7.5 million compared to 8.3 million, a decrease of $800,000 based on regular budgeted payments in the year of principal payments on those balances. You'll see a new line item which was required under Public Sector Accounting Board is asset retirement obligations. That balance is just under 5 million at 4.9 million, which replaces the old standard for landfill closure and post-closure costs, which was 4.8 million. Most of that carried forward to the asset retirement obligations or AROs, but now but the increased balance includes contamination removal costs in the future and more of a catch up of what it's going to cost to close your remaining landfill site, plus the monitoring costs of its current site, plus the former Williamsburg site, recorded in today's dollars. So with the increase in your cash and accounts receivable and the pay down of your debt and accounts payable, you now have a net financial assets position of 2.3 million compared to a deficit of the previous year of 567,000, a change of 1.7 million dollars. Under non-financial assets, your tangible capital assets, which is recorded for accounting purposes, which is your land, buildings, equipment, vehicles, your infrastructure for roads, storm sewers, water and sewer facilities and pipes, recorded at net book value of 114.5 million, up from 109 million, or 4% from the previous year, 4.5 million, and your inventory increased slightly to 225. So your total accumulated surplus, which includes your tangible capital assets, is 117 million compared to 109 million dollars from the previous year. I've returned the page to the consolidated statement of financial activities, which is the next page. This is your income statement for the year, and it is recorded for public sector accounting standards. So if you look at the third line from the bottom, it shows your annual surplus for the year in your middle column. 7.49 million compared to 4.6 million. Like I said, that's not your operating surplus. This is your PSAS surplus, which includes funds that you have raised or transferred for capital purposes. And I'll go in a little bit more detail in a second. But if you look under revenue in the middle column compared to your budgeted column, total revenues was 15.8 million compared to budget of 15.2 million. An increase of 648,000 over budget to the good, or 4.3%. Under expenses, total expenses was 17.4 million compared to a budget of 16.5 million, over by $930,000, but 1.2 million over that increase is due to amortization expense, which was recorded more than budgeted, which is a non-cash item. So if you take that out, you're actually savings to the good of overall expenses to budget of $227,414, a savings of 1.8% compared to budget. Other revenue for capital purposes, we have your deferred revenue earned, like your gas tax, OSIF funding, and GIF funding. You have grants and donations. There's contributions from developers and transfers made from United Counties of Infrastructure, and the reversal of the landfill closure and post-closure costs accounting policy, which is just a transaction on paper of $3.5 million. So if you back off the 3.5 and the non-cash items like the contributions, you end up with a 221,284 surplus for the year, And that's really part of your operating surplus for the year. Now, before I go forward, if I can go to this page, which would be the first page maybe in the package, back at the top, maybe, hopefully. Right to the end, maybe. Oh, there we go. So
Page 72.
So what this page do, it takes off items that doesn't affect your operations, like non-cash items like amortization expense. It takes out items like PSAS items that you don't technically actually pay for or budget. So it kind of condenses of what's your overall surplus or deficit for the year. And if you look at 4 lines from the bottom, overall, there was an operating surplus of $386,391, broken down into 2 parts. One is your water and wastewater surpluses for the 4 units of $257,980. And your remaining operating surplus for the municipal operations on a general level was $128,411. And both of those surpluses gets transferred to your reserves and reserve funds at the end of the fiscal year based on your tax law, bylaw and rating bylaw. So those two together makes your overall surplus for the year of $386,391. And what this page does, it gives an explanation of where your surpluses came from or some deficiencies. But under revenue, as indicated, overall $16.4 million in revenue, an increase of $1.2 million. Most of that is due to the sale of land for $624,000, RSL income and dividends of $47,000, and higher investment income in your bank accounts. As I indicated, you have a very healthy bank balance, plus the change in your interest rates to the good resulted in higher investment income for the year. Under expenditures, as indicated, you have a surplus to the good of $227,000 in savings. Yes, you had some overages in general government for higher wages, higher professional fees, higher insurance, but you had savings in salaries and less training costs and protections to persons and property of $339,000. Transportation services really right in line with budget. Environmental services, you had savings in salaries, repairs and maintenance costs. Health services was in line with budget. Recreation and cultural services over by $340,000, but there was higher salaries. EDP funding projects of $128,000 and higher capital repairs and maintenance. And an example is the additional work done in the arena this past year, which wasn't originally budgeted for, of $110,000. But with that, you'll see under financing and transfers, you end up transferring $1.6 million more than you budgeted for to reserves and reserve funds. But then there's a swing in your capital fund of $632,000. So that net is $1 million. But then what makes up that $1 million is the additional land sales that went through, sale of equipment, the RSL income, and anything that was up and above during the year got transferred to the reserves. So that's why you end up transferring more than you budgeted for. But at the end of the year, you had a surplus of $128,411 from operating, which was mainly in your fire department, and most of that savings gets placed into the fire reserve. There was about a $9,700 savings that went into your general working capital reserve, and your water and sewer operations had an overall surplus of $257,980. So you had a very good year. You met your budget. You had savings in your expenditures plus additional revenues, which you end up placing into your reserves and reserve funds. If I go back to the financial statements, and I won't go through much of the details, because I can spend all day here if you really want me to, but if we go to this consolidated schedule of accumulated surplus, which is my page 7. So if you go back up a few more pages. One more than that. There we go.
51. 51.
We'll get there eventually. So the schedule of accumulated surplus, as I indicated, the total accumulated surplus shown at the bottom is $117 million. Don't go spending that all in one spot, because that includes your invested intangible capital assets of $114 million, less the outstanding debt of $5.9 million, which is the bottom part of that table. At the top part, we have operating surplus deficits. Any operating surplus gets placed to your reserves. We have liabilities to be recovered from future revenues, which is the accrued interest and long-term debt, the long-term debt for asset retirement obligations, and asset retirement obligations themselves, which is mainly the future closure costs of your landfill sites, of $4.8 million deficiency. So right in the middle is your reserves and reserve funds. That total is $13.2 million compared to $10.9 million the previous year, an increase of $2.28 million or 21%. So with the small surpluses that you had during the year and what you budgeted for, your overall reserves and reserve funds grew by $2.3 million in the year. And so that puts you in a more stronger financial footing than you were a year ago. If we kind of go back down and we go to maybe we'll go to note 5 on my page 18, which is the breakdown of what's deferred revenue and the obligatory reserve funds deferred revenue. Note 5, the OCIF funded unspent portion is $116,000. One more, 2 more.
62.
That's 65. There we go. So this note 5, starting in the left-hand column, the OSIF funding, the unspent portion at December 31st is $116,000. Your green infrastructure fund, that project is now completed, so that balance of $381,000 is brought into income for the year. So your closing balance for deferred revenue, which represents funds that you have received but not yet spent on specific projects, is now $116,000 compared to $386,000 from the previous year. Under obligatory reserve funds, your parkland reserve is the largest balance, the middle column. It has a balance of $322,000. Your gas tax, which you spend really annually, has a closing balance of $62,000, and unspent funds related to COVID-19 is at $54,000, for a total balance of $440,000 compared to $293,000. If we turn to the next page, this is just the breakdown of your municipal debt. Total balance is $7.5 million, down by about $800,000 from the previous year, and no changes in the debt except for your normal budgeted principal payments that you made in the year. And it shows the 5-year payment schedule in the middle that you have to budget each year to pay for those principal payments. If we turn to page 23, so I would guess is your page 67, is the breakdown of your reserves and reserve funds. Your reserves overall is just over $6 million compared to $7.4 million the previous year. It is down by $1.3 million, but it's due by allocations made during the year between reserves and reserve funds. If you look at reserve funds, the total is $7.2 million compared to $3.5 million an increase of 3.6%, almost doubling those reserve funds. And what happened is anything maybe related to water or wastewater was reallocated between the reserves and reserve funds in the year. So that's why one is down and one is up. And your top line, your working capital is now 1.8 million, just compared to 2 million the previous year. Expenditures by object, if you look at actual versus budget, you were in line with most items, but as I indicated, the amortization is higher by 1.2 million, but that's just based on what was recorded in the year compared to budget, and it's a non-cash item. But the most other things are what you incur, what you end up paying or paid during the year, and you're basically in line with budget for the whole year. And if we go to the last page of the 5-year financial review, just some of the key financial indicators. Next page, please. Your tax arrears remain the same at 13% outstanding of your total owned levy. Your municipal debt is down. Your long-term debt charges is down because of that. Because of your collection of accounts receivables, your increase in your cash and pay down of your payable and debt. Under sustainability, your financial assets to liabilities increased to 1.16 from 0.96, so that's favorable to the good. Your financial assets to liabilities, excluding long-term debt, jumped from 1.77 to 2.13. So that means for every $1 of liabilities, financial liabilities, you have $2 in financial assets. Long-term debt to tangible capital assets is less, which is good at 6.56. Under reserve coverage, your total reserve that's indicated is $6 million. Reserves to operating expenses is 35%, and we always like to see it in a range of 25 to 50%, and that's exactly where you are. Your working capital reserve is $1.8 million, which represents 10% of your operating expenditures, and we'd like to see that amount to be in the 10 to 15%. And your reserve to working capital, $1.06, which is good. So every $1 of working capital, you have $1.06 set aside in reserves. So overall, this indicates that you're in very good financial position. You had a very good year. You're very strong financially with the amount of financial assets. You have very strong amount of reserves and set aside for a lot of specific purposes in your reserves and reserve funds. So overall, you are in very good financial shape. You had a small operating surplus for both your municipal operations and your water and sewer. So you had a good year on that front, and we are in a position to issue a clean audit opinion on your financial statements.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Pollock. That was a lot to take in, and without a glass of water, so excellent job. Certainly pleased to hear we're in a good financial position. Several times you said the words that we're in line, so budget was in line. You know, we had some surprise expenditures, but we had some savings along the way. So kudos to all the directors and everybody that owned a budget for working hard on that. Good to see a surplus is up. Obviously, we'll have some spending then this year in reserves as planned, and reduced debt. So being in a good financial position is where we want to be. And as we make decisions going into our next budget year, we can look at other projects or what may be in front of us going ahead. So thank you for doing the audit and having your team here, and thank you to the Treasury Department. It's nice to have a good, clean report. So questions or other comments from the team? Councillor Ward.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I just had a question about the adjustments. There was an ARO for asbestos.
Yes.
So is that new?
Yes.
Okay. And so how do we, as a municipality, is that 588,000 budgeted for over a certain amount of time? Is that how it's suggested?
Okay, so that's a very good question, and I'll go through what that amount represents. So the AROs take in the asbestos removals plus landfill closure and post-closure costs or any kind of future demolition costs. So during the audit, we actually set up the AROs related to asbestos removal that we know of. So that is recorded in your financial statements. This is based on reports that was provided by your administration staff. That amount, and it's a future estimate, like we take in, okay, how much is expected to cost per square footage? When is it supposed to be removed? Okay, this, 10 years from now, 20 years, let's discount that to today's dollar and record it. That amount that you see is what was not recorded only because there's nothing as auditors we can hang our hat on to say, well, these are the buildings where there were no reports. But some of these buildings are mainly made out of steel and concrete. Like your administration can tell me there's no asbestos. Hopefully I'm smart enough. I come a farm. I know these buildings. Yeah, you're right. There's probably no asbestos in there, but there's no report for me to say, yes, you're 100% sure. So this is our audit at-risk amount that may not be recorded only because there's no formal report on it. But once those reports, if it gets conducted and come in and says, yeah, Jamie, we were right all along, there's no asbestos, and say that makes sense, then that kind of unrecorded amount gets disappeared. But that's kind of our auditors at risk. That's not recorded, but we use a term called materiality in the financial statements, where surprisingly this future estimate will not change my audit opinion on these financial statements. It does not need to be recorded, and I'm still comfortable to issue a clean audit opinion on these financial statements only because your expenditures for the year is $17.5 million. So that's what that is all about.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you. Jamie, I got a quick one here. It's on my page 81. It says the heading is reserve funds and restricted assets. Just wonder if you just explain what restricted assets means.
Okay, so the restricted assets kind of relates to the reserve fund. So the main difference between reserves and reserve funds is that reserve funds, you gotta have either investments or cash set aside to match those reserve funds. Where reserves is just your working capital, your accumulated retained earnings, so you don't need to have cash specifically set aside, for those reserves. Where reserve funds, you need to have, either investments or like your promissory note with RSL is an example of an investment. You have your own internal debenture due to the water project. That's an investment, but your reserve funds of I believe it's just sorry. So your reserve funds of 7.2 million should be offset with a combination of both investments and restricted assets or cash balances in its own specific reserve funds.
Okay.
No problem.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pollock. Thanks for the audit and your team, and hope to speak with you soon. Thanks for coming
Okay.
tonight.
I did leave a little to-do list for your administration. Is in our management letter, recommendation letter, but it's just continue working on collecting the taxes receivable, making sure your documentation for approvals is in place. We did mention a couple of years ago, follow up on your outstanding user fees, receivables and grants, and that's the big swing. Your administration did do that during the year, and that's why you're in such a good cash position, as of December 31st, 2023.
Excellent.
Okay, and I'd like to say thank you very much to the administration staff and to Julie and Sean and Tim and the rest of your staff for their cooperation and during the audit. And I always enjoy working with them, and I look forward to working with them again next year.
Excellent.
And thank you for having me here tonight.
Thanks for coming. Okay, now we'll move to item 7, Committee of the Whole, which we're going to discuss surplus land. So I have a motion. Let it resolve that council convene to Committee of the Whole at 6:54 p.m. to discuss surplus lands. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. We'll call on Tia Fraser Dupuis.
Hello. So, as I'm sure you remember, in April of this year, Council passed an amended sale and disposition of land policy, which outlines the procedure for disposing of properties in a transparent manner. So, before the disposal of any property, Council must deem the property as surplus. So now is the time for Council to provide input, ask questions, and request further information on specific properties. And then based on the direction of Council, staff will return with a report at a future meeting to declare lands as surplus. This means no decisions are being made at this time. It's just a discussion. So we'll move on to the first property. So this has no civic number. It is up by the Iroquois Point, located on Carmen Road and Old Highway 2. It's a 2.5 acre property zoned residential waterfront and open space. The next page there shows just a zoomed out version of it. All surrounding properties are zoned open space. The cemetery located nearby is zoned institutional. But other than that, at this time, the municipality has no use for this specific property.
I guess as we go through each property, if somebody has a question, then we'll just ask it, and then,
Yep.
and then, if not, we'll just kind of go on as we're just taking it all in, then we may have questions at the end as well. So just leave that open for council just to jump up and ask a question at each property if there's a specific question.
All right. The next property, many of us will likely know as the former locksmith's home, located just across the street from the previous property. It's 3.28 acres, zoned as open space. Again, properties surrounding are also zoned as open space, with the exception of the cemetery. This property is a good property for multiple different uses, whether it be homes, waterfront businesses. There's some opportunity there as well.
Yeah, because on these two pieces of property, we don't have service, right? Service ends
No.
basically at the Carmen House on that street. Does that be right, Director?
Through you, Mayor, water services goes down pretty much to Craig's Packaging.
Craig's Packaging, okay, so that would, okay,
And no wastewater, the wastewater stops at the campground.
the campground. Okay, very good. Councilor Ward?
To your point too, Mayor, I was wondering how difficult it would be to service those properties since there is water in between us and that. Just out of curiosity.
Yes, through you, Mayor, it's definitely doable because the water line goes down Carmen Road. So we could just run a line, extend the line down to that, like follow the road right down there. I'm sure there'd be no issues. Wastewater, you'd have to do a topograph to make sure that because Craig's Packing has to pump it back there, so I'm guessing they're a little lower there. So there might be a topograph issue there. You might have to get a pumping station or something to pump back, but water wouldn't be an issue, other than excavation.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, I recall looking at these properties many moons ago, around 2016, 2017, and I know the thought of the day was if we are going to market, we should probably market all of these projects just as one, not one big parcel, but as one big package. And I think we at the day as well, Dennis, we did look at water and sewage, and we thought maybe just a simple lift station versus a full-blown pump station for if we need be to get down to that sewer. So I'm certainly, I think this is a gorgeous piece of property that has a great opportunity for some type of housing or some type of convention center type.
Business,
I mean,
something, right?
that one parcel, I mean, that's $1 million view with the locks and whatnot. Now, one of the things I think we should be doing if we get to this point is maybe consider vibration testing and noise testing, just, because it is the proximity of the water and the locks. But I would be in favor of, moving forward and thinking our way through these properties for sure.
Yeah. Councilor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. So on the map there's 3 separate red triangles. Is there 3 pieces of property there, or is it just 2? Or did we miss? Have we not got to the third one yet? There's the small little one there.
through you, Mayor Broad, it's just so the two we just looked at,
Yeah.
if you will go back one more. So the first one is this guy here,
Yeah.
and then flip. One more. And this guy here.
So I think Councilor Smith's referring to the
Yeah,
third red
that third-
triangle.
Here?
Right there,
Yes.
yeah.
So this is not included in the list.
Okay.
But do we own that?
Yes. Okay, so the next 8 properties are all in a very similar location, and are very much wetlands. We'll go through them one by one, but as a whole, staff will need to work with South Nation Conservation to determine a best use for these properties. So the first one is 34.41 acres and zoned light industrial, and located off of Jones Road in north of Morrisburg, which you can see there. The next one is 39.25 acres, zoned light industrial in the same area. You'll notice they're pretty much the same map for the next few. This one is 2.14 acres and it's zoned general industrial. Then we have 13.55 acres zoned light industrial. Again, off of Jones Road. Then 20.52 acres. Same vicinity. 30.75 acres light industrial. 2.82 acres light industrial. And then finally 106.45 acres zoned general industrial and light industrial. So all of those staff are looking to have conversations with SNC.
Councilor Vino.
Through you, Mayor Broad. I'd like to, as everybody knows, we're becoming a logistics hub in this area between Toronto and Montreal and the East Coast. And it seems like every other municipality around us is capitalizing on the opportunity. I suspect there is a vast majority of this that is wetlands. So I would like to see, personally, I'd like to see a report come back with these properties in question as to what their realistic use could be with the South Nation involved and the wetlands reports. So, because it's certainly, with Jones Road being there, I mean, that, and the proximity to the 401 interchange, that would be a great spot. And actually the rail line goes through there. So it could be a great spot for an investment opportunity like the Long Sault Logistics Village that they're looking at doing. However, I know it's fairly low through there. So I'd like to see a report on those properties that way.
Absolutely.
Ms. Moore?
We've recently had some beaver dam removal in the area, so we're not really, and it's been holding back water for a while, so I'm not very sure to what extent some of the lands have taken on wetland characteristics that wouldn't typically be wetland characteristics. So it's certainly something that I think that we can certainly do. Reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think having a specific goal in mind, you know, aligns with some of the conversations we had in our strat plan, right? And to your point of logistics type business, if that's something we can market for, then that would be, could be a good option. Yeah, go ahead.
Just one more, I guess, the two options to me here would be, you know, if it's developable, then I think that would be an interesting way to go. If not, we could potentially look at, you know, giving it back to the conservation. If it turns out to be majority unusable wetlands, undevelopable wetlands, maybe there's an opportunity there for more trails or wetland or something like the bird sanctuary, maybe. It could be also a benefit there. So it'd be interesting to see what the report brings back, I guess.
Excellent. Okay, continue.
Here we have the property surrounding Matilda Hall, which is at 4421 County Road 16, not 31. Not sure why. says 31, but it is just about 10 acres, 9.5 acres, and it's unserviced. The surrounding properties are zoned agricultural and residential hamlet. So this may be one where we look at approaching adjacent property owners or just put it out to the open market.
The one around Matilda Hall, question for Ms. Moran, would we, if that was a housing lot, would be able to get another entranceway off of County Road 16?
Through you?
Yeah.
So internally, we've discussed a couple options, one being the portion that was requested to be rented, sort of the most eastern portion. And then we could probably get 2 lots. It is within the settlement area boundary, so there shouldn't be any barriers to getting an
Right, okay.
entrance.
Here we have Render Park, which is located on the east side of Iroquois in zoned open space. It is 1.84 acres. The surrounding properties, as you can see, are zoned residential. I believe Director Jansen has some information to add to this.
Director Jansen.
Yeah, so to you, Mayor and Council, we wouldn't be looking to deem this entire park surplus. It's a well-used park and it connects many parts of the east half of Iroquois together. But as you can see, there's quite a bit of open green space in there. And I'll probably say this a couple times yet as we're going through this. Most play structures and swing sets nowadays are on a sleeper system. So like you're looking at that park and you see the park aspects in the middle. Typically they're quite movable nowadays. So you almost just have to dig a hole, put the sleepers down and remove it. So if we wanted to deem a portion of this surplus, there's enough space to still provide a strong local neighborhood park there and still increase the number of residential houses in the area.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Broad. And this is going to be on the line on any park we talked about. It's going to be a hard sell to convince me of losing green space. I think once we lose green space and it's gone. So, I'm open for discussion, but I would really say I'd be hesitant about losing any green space whatsoever when it pertains to parks and just open space, but always open for discussion for sure.
Councilor Smith.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. So the question for Director Jansen, is there a square meter requirement or acre requirement that we have to maintain as a service to the communities? Like, is there a certain minimum area that we have to have?
So yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, there isn't really a specific guideline. It's almost set by yourselves at council as to what your level of service wants to be there. I will say our rec master plan does have, so if you go in there, there's neighborhood parks, local parks, and community parks. Local and neighborhood parks are typically more in the 1 acre-ish size, sometimes even a little smaller depending on the neighborhood. And that's like, if you're just on your little subdivision, that's just your typical little slide, maybe a swing set, maybe just 1 or 2 of the aspects. Then your community parks, you're looking at Earl Baker Park, J.C. Whitaker, Brinston Park, and our master plan outlines Haldane Park as our community parks. And those are community hubs where you focus the most of your park attention. So those are bigger parks. But outside of that, how many we have, how big they are is kind of set up to council to decide our level of service.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, and Stephanie can correct me, but I believe on any new development, there is regulations on a park size, so it depends on the number of homes will dictate the park size, and if you can't accommodate, then it'd be cash in lieu, as we went through that bylaw there before, so, correct? Yeah.
Venture.
I just want to, through you, Mayor, that park also, just so everybody's aware, there's wastewater lines that go through there, and there's also a main storm line that goes through there as well. I just want to bring that to your attention on that one.
No, and I think that's excellent information as we're gathering the properties. Hey, what, here's all our properties, and this is one, we maintain this reason for X, Y, Z or not, right? So that's good, all good information for sure. Councilor Ward?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So I would second what the Deputy Mayor was saying. I'm not really particularly interested in any park space, specifically because I think as we continue to grow as a community, we're gonna need that additional space anyways. We're gonna grow in population. Hopefully more children will join the community, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not just for youth, you know, we see a lot of like adult user groups starting to start up again as well for baseball and other items. So I'm not particularly interested, so I would second that. I also think too, you know, when you buy in that area, you buy near a park for a reason, right? So I think that, you know, we have to keep in mind that I think people bought in that area anticipating to be on the park for that specific reason. So I don't want to see that. I would second your opinion there on that one.
Very good. Continue, Tia.
So this one's Haldane Park, which is located in the center of Iroquois, zoned open space. We're speaking specifically to the area outlined in white there, the 13.38 acres. Staff have recommended a few different options here, potentially that lot be severed and put out to open market, or we could have it retained for future recreational growth, and Director Jansen can speak to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the park itself is the 13.3 acres. We're looking at about 3.5 to 4 acres on the east end where the cenotaph used to be. As Ms. Fraser Dupuy outlined there, we sort of bounced between a few options internally, whether, you know, we want to look at developing more housing here, we want to keep it as green space, or if, as everybody knows, also in the Park and Rec Master Plan, the first step to getting a new rec complex is where you're going to put it. And that's the other option that could be, we could choose to hold this for. I'll say this, our current arena sits on about, including the back lot, about 1.75 acres, and parking is not great. But sort of the gold standard around here is now sort of become, the Prescott Arena sits on about 4 to 5 acres. So we're looking at about a 4-acre lot here. But at the same time, housing is in demand, and I do know that the Cornwall Social Housing included this in their lists and their delegation to council, so I don't have to speak to that, they already have. So there's lots of options here, but that's all I got.
Yeah, this is I think, a property I'd like to hold for recreation, but I think we definitely should look at it, like, you know, see what it is, but this could be an excellent piece to hold on for recreation, as you said. Councilor Ward?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Mayor, like, this is somewhere where I had always thought that if we were to, you know, build another arena, this would be where perhaps it could go. I'm not saying that's where it would go, but it's a perfect location in my mind, and it sits on enough property, so I would also like to hold on to this one. I don't think we should declare it surplus at this time.
Very good. Mr. Wee?
So moving on is Orchard Way Park, which is located in between Merkley and Orchard Way in Morrisburg. It's 1.2 acres, zoned as open space, and the surrounding properties are zoned residential. So we're speaking specifically to the outline area, and the rest would be maintained as a park.
Councilor Ward?
I just have a strange question. So there is a cemetery there, correct?
Yes.
Is there any setbacks for, no, because it's serviced, so there's no okay. Just curious.
Yeah, so this is, the park is kind of to the south, right? The cemetery is in the middle, and then there's a
Yes.
piece of property on the north side. Miss Moore?
We probably recommend doing a phase 1 archaeological, but
Which becomes a lot of money for
Yeah. No, but interesting that's, we own that, right? Because you wouldn't necessarily know, just the way that property's laid, you just think it's maybe part of the cemetery, it's right by there, or the neighbors
Perhaps
own that.
that's why we own it.
Yeah, that's probably why we own it. Yeah. Councilor Smith?
Yeah, through Mayor Broad, just thinking out loud here, every cemetery usually has a church at some point in time attached to it. Was it maybe a former church was there? I don't know. just to, if we're doing an
Yeah,
archaeological.
yeah,
dig,
of
we
course,
might
you never
find
know
some.
what you might find.
Another question I had was, so the whole thing was 1.3, how, or sorry, 1.2, how big would that area be, potentially that would be severed off, and like it's long and narrow, would it be big enough, like setback wise from lot lines to even get a house on there, if we ever wanted to? Just curious.
Ms. Moore?
I think we looked at it, and I think we could probably get possibly one on each road.
Okay, interesting. Very good, continue.
Here we have a section of Duncan Park in Mariatown. Just over half an acre, zoned as residential hamlet. There is a covenant on this property stating that if the municipality were to no longer use it as parkland, it would go to hydro. However, we believe that it has expired, and we do have legal looking into it to confirm. So
More
the-
information to come, really.
yes, more information to come. But the north west property there would be what would be deemed as surplus.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
through you, Mayor Brown. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going through my old notes from 2016, 2017, and the day, we actually thought that this land had to go back to the Smith family. So it is be nice to get this cleared up once and for all, if we do declare it surplus, because that's what I called the day that was the discussion about, so I appreciate you.
Yeah, and that would be like,
Just to have it on record anyways, and to know.
yeah, and if we were to choose not to have a surplus, how do we tie it together with the park? For, because today it's just like an open lot that visitors or residents of my town use for access to the river, so.
Mayor, Brown, I have noticed, though, I paid attention to this, when there are frequent visitors that like to, not
Yeah.
just Mariah Town, but
No, I
not
bet,
just,
yeah,
but I know what
two
you're saying.
Mariah-
Yeah,
visitors
to
to
Mariah
Mariah
Town,
Town.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, so.
Yeah. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through Mayor Broad, the question I had was, if you look at the outline of that shape, does the lot line normally does not go all the way right to the river? There's usually OPG has a setback there that they own, so, according to that outline that's shown there, we would be blocking like the road allowance access. It probably does not go that way though, does it? Would it not? It wouldn't block that road allowance, would it? Like that wouldn't even be included in that lot, likely, or would it?
Ms. Barn?
I believe it does. However, we
does.
need to have a topographic survey done to identify whether or not there are lands that are above the water line that OPG does formally own. But that would be part of that sort of information gathering that we would proceed with.
Yeah, so I do know, like, on some locations, Lakeshore Drive, property owners own right to the river,
Yeah.
and some places
right
do
to-
not. It's a mix, so
Yeah.
it's a mix between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I was getting at on that one was, if it's exactly that shape, then we would no longer have a road access left for the municipality to go direct to the water. That's all I was just, if that's the true shape of that lot, that's all I was getting
Yeah,
at.
no, true,
Yeah.
true.
Like, we would lose water access.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Very good.
Up next is on Coyle Drive. So this is a 7.5 acre property, which includes the park on Coyle Drive. It's zoned as residential hamlet, unserviced, and as you can tell where it's located, the surrounding properties are zoned residential. This property could be developed in various ways, and staff have had conversations about including the park as well.
Councillor Ward?
Yeah, I guess this question is for Ms. Moran. Would there be another entrance off County Road 2 allowable on the, I guess it would be the west boundary of that? If that, is that too close, I guess, is my question.
Mayor Brad, I believe, the road allowance would be coming off of Quail Drive.
So it would have to go off okay, so it wouldn't have access to County Road 2?
Likely
Okay.
not.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's, you know, in our road tours with the counties, that's certainly the way they really want us to think about development, is not from the county road, especially we're outside the town limits at that point, right? So. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. So this is a piece of property that I would really consider moving forward with in terms of a residential opportunity. I don't believe I would include the park in that, though. Again, if we're gonna add in housing, then we've got a park that could service the new houses and some existing residents. So if there was a way to figure that out, keep the existing park, but also create, you know, residential lots, I think I'd like to see that develop for sure. Because with the road allowance, it just seems to me that was the intent at one time anyways, with the road allowance off of Coyle Drive.
Ms. Moore?
I believe Director Jansen has some comments on that park.
Sure.
You're open.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Broad, to council, I will say, Coyle Drive Park is probably our lowest settling park. If it became one of the new entrances and we rebuilt a new park within the 7 acres, it might not be a bad idea. Because at the end of the day,
Okay.
that park is about 4 feet below road and all of the neighbors, and it grows like a swamp.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're correct. I think the more of the point was, I don't want to get rid of a park. So if we can develop something within the new or recreate something there, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Good. You had the same comment, Councilor Vina? Good. All right. Continue on.
This one is just a small 0.13 acre property on West End Terrace in Iroquois, with the surrounding properties being zoned residential as well. It's not quite large enough to do much with, but may be of interest to the adjacent property owners.
Yeah, I would think, right? Yeah, I mean,
I'm thinking.
you're, okay, no, yeah, you're right.
Do we own the pavilion though?
Yes.
So we would be giving the resident the opportunity to purchase the pavilion as well? Okay, just everything goes with the property, okay.
Through you, Mayor Brown. I think on this one, I think I would like to, sorry, maybe just give me a second here before I say anything. No, I won't say anything. I was getting it mixed up with another parcel of land, so I apologize.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Continue.
So this guy is Bayview Park, located on Parkdale Drive, which is off of Savor, east of Iroquois. It is 0.63 acres, unserviced, zoned residential waterfront, as are the surrounding properties. And I believe Director Jansen has comments on the use of the park.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would say that this park, it's a very suitable lot for a housing for a new house. I know Ms. Moran and I had reviewed a few times. There are some OPG lands in that area that I think if we could attract OPG to letting us put park equipment on those lands, we would end up with another Loyalist park. And this is an underutilized park. I think it's because South Dundas has such great parks within a kilometer that residents prefer to go to. And if we could get some play structures moved to those OPG lands in the same area and add another housing development. From there, we have a play structure here that has no signs of use on the slides. And I'll be honest, I've been to this park many times and a resident should have called me to complain. The grass gets long and nobody calls. So that's just a sign of the use and and how much the residents care about this park. I have gotten a couple complaints this year recently, so there are some people in the neighborhood starting to see it, but I think if we could relocate it to match the Duncan Park, the Loyalist Park, all of our waterfront parks that are so attractive, I think we'd end up with a better product.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, all I wanted to say on that one was we have to maintain park space, because just because it's underutilized now doesn't mean that in 20 years from now, it's still going to be underutilized. There could be a whole new wave of people move into that area, and all of a sudden there's children, and now they need some place to swing on swings and slide on slides, so we can't get rid of parkland. But if we could switch it around somehow, then okay.
Councillor Ward.
I just have one comment, and you know, maybe perhaps I'm overthinking this, but my main concern is if we start getting rid of parkland, when you buy a lot in a subdivision, you pay a premium to live next to a park. So if we start selling parkland in subdivisions that are developed, I just have concerns about the residents that bought in that area. So I'm against getting rid of this park, and I can understand it's not utilized, but I have concerns that like the residents there purposely bought those lots for a reason. So, and perhaps in particular, this person didn't want a rear neighbor. I don't know, but I just want to be cognizant of that feedback as well.
Through you, and just a question to follow up though, if we are thinking about just redeveloping the parkland, how far away is it from this particular park?
Through you, Mayor Broad, there's OPG lands around the corner.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be necessarily eliminating it, we're just relocating it to a better spot. As long as, and I agree, I 100% agree, as long as it's one for one and the park can get developed and maybe beautified a little bit more, like you say, because it's, you know, along the water up front, maybe that's the only trade-off I would, you know, kind of consider, and that's what I would tend to agree with what you're saying. I would like to see what your plan would be and to have discussions with OPG for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Macintosh Park, which is located on an oversized lot, zoned residential hamlet and institutional. It is 1.41 acres, and the surrounding properties are also zoned residential hamlet, institutional, with some ag in there as well. This park currently, I'll just let Director Jansen explain the plan for this.
Yeah, so to council, this is, many people have driven by this park. It's a very large park. It used to have the Dundas outdoor rink and another building on it. So there's some partial servicing going on there as well that you might be able to tap into. I will say it's sort of, it has the potential that I think they were kind of going community level park, a little bit bigger of a park. And so this plan right here, as you can see, you know, it comes back to the play structures being movable, parking lots being movable, is scaling it down to more of a smaller local park and adding a few more houses, maybe tapping into the well that's already there. So sort of the similar nature to what they did in Winchester Springs in the last term of council.
Councillor Ward.
I would say that this is probably the only park that I would entertain, simply because I've been to this park and I know the discussions from previous councils about this park, and they've tried and the community level park and it didn't go well. The trailer, like for council, like that's not even there anymore. And you know, the park's in a bit of, state of disrepair, like it's not well maintained. So I think there is a better use for that park. There's been a lot of clearing in that area too, so it would be nice if we could maintain some of it or plant some more trees in that area, I think, because that's the main concern that I hear from residents there. Less about how much space they have to play and more about the coverage of forest that they've lost. But so this is the only, in my opinion, of all of them, this is probably the only one I would entertain, and they would be nice lots, so, yeah.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. So I had a couple things on that one. Part of me still holding out hope that there's going to be an outdoor rink there again. I don't know, maybe that ship sailed. I don't know. Could be not. Another idea I had, and I don't, just an idea. Habitat for Humanity is always looking for lots. Could that be potentially one?
Yeah, and I think that's what we did, when the previous council did Winchester Springs.
Yeah.
Same idea, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just a thought.
Could be another option. Yeah, could be a potential for sure. Now, on the outdoor rink side, we are, trying to maintain, Morrisburg, Iroquois, Williamsburg, and Princeton outdoor rinks. So we do have 4 going outdoor rinks today. Okay, very good.
Through you, Mayor Broad, I just wanted to add that this is the location of the Macintosh Apple mural, so it would be moved, it would stay there. We wouldn't touch that.
Right, yeah, okay.
Next up is a half-acre lot at the end of Willow Road, east of Princeton, zoned agricultural. The surrounding properties are also zoned agricultural. This land is at the very end of the road. The rest is not maintained. And this would just be deemed surplus for open market.
Okay, very good.
Perfect. Here we have 10 Bouk Street, which is land on the south side of Bouk Street to be specific, 12.33 acres, zoned general industrial, light industrial, highway commercial, and special exception 5. It does include an easement that the municipality would need to keep, but the outlined portion there could be developed in various ways. The surrounding properties are zoned light industrial, general industrial, and residential. Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
This one is property between the 401, I guess, west of County Road 16. It's 25.61 acres, zone rural. It is landlocked, so it would hopefully be attractive to adjacent landowners. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah, Councilor Smith.
So just on that one there, so it's landlocked, there's no road access to that one. If somebody bought that and for an industrial, commercial, whatever, and so who would have to run the road to it? Would that be us or would that be them? That would be them?
Yeah.
Just curious.
All right. Here we have a property located in between County Road 2 and Beach Avenue in Iroquois, which most people would know as, well, the outline portions beside the Seaway District High School parking lot that is being used right now. 2.87 acres, zoned as open space, and there is a mix of institutional, residential, highway commercial, and general commercial properties surrounding it. This would be deemed surplus for open market. It could be a possible location for future affordable housing building as well. There's some options with this one.
Right, so on this property, we did have a good discussion when Cornwall Housing was here last year. And we did at that time talk about if we were going to do it at this property, we would go to the public on this one. I know we took a lot of feedback, good, positive, constructive feedback about this property. So this would be one, again, we would want some public input on that. But I think the timing is good because if there was any other park or a piece of a park that we were thinking about, we include it in the public information sessions at that time, right, to get the input on that. So, but this is a very interesting piece of property for sure. If you drive by, whether to just maintain as is or get public opinion on what could be a good use for it. Councilor Ward.
I just had a question about this particular piece of property. When we do consultation on it in the future, I think, and they might already know, but I think the school board, maybe we should have them involved in the discussion in case they ever need to. I don't know if they're at this stage where they need to expand or rebuild or whatever, but I think that they should be involved in this discussion, because I'd hate to see us put this up for sale and someone else get it, and then the school board actually need it during some sort of construction or something if they ever go that way. So just hoping we can include them, maybe even a direct invite when we do consultations, so they can't say we didn't involve them in the conversation.
Yeah, good point. Deputy Mayor?
Sorry, yeah, I agree with everybody's comments on this piece of property. I'm still fixated on two parcels before this.
Okay, let's go back.
The one in Iroquois, and I'm just going on the county GIS system. Unless I don't have it exactly, do we have any issues with the wetlands? And that's the one at, off of,
Elm Street?
yeah. And like I say, I'm just looking here and trying to get my bearings. This is Bouk Street here. See, this is Bouk Street here.
Yeah.
And then we got wetlands in here. And it's darn close to
It is, yeah.
that piece of property that they're identifying on the plan. So I don't know. Maybe I'm over too much to the, maybe the wetland's more to the east. See that?
Yeah, I think it is part of the this is MS.RR.
Okay,
Eventually is the pink.
okay.
So when you zoom in, you'll see the pink. I don't think.
Yeah, I can't really
South
see
Nation
that
doesn't
pink.
provide-
Okay, just a question on the wetlands.
Ms. Moran?
I think we're happy to engage the Conservation Authority on any property that we own that is adjacent to a wetland, just to
Okay.
have them confirm that the boundary.
Yes,
Between the two?
timing would be excellent to confirm the current
Okay,
state of the wetland, as we know. Yeah.
okay,
Councilor Smith?
thank you.
Yeah, I tried to look up on South Nation's website today about their wetland mapping, but
Right.
everything was taken down.
Yes.
So, but I
Really?
think, yeah, but I think that these ones in Iroquois, I believe they were okay.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I remember from
Yeah,
looking
no,
before.
yeah, no, you spent a lot of time trying to
Yeah.
look at what was changed or not changed, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay,
but
good
no.
to know. Like you say, I'm just looking at the GIS mapping and it looked pretty close to it, so.
Yeah.
And even that other one up by the 401, I think it was good too.
Okay,
I think.
sorry to have to go back a couple.
No,
there.
that's great, that's why we're here.
So this property has actually been removed from the list as it was previously a landfill, which was closed around 1980. So we can move past this one.
Could be an opportunity to plant more trees in there. Fill that in,
Absolutely.
yep.
So this property here is located in Iroquois industrial area and has no road access. It's 5.5 acres, zoned general industrial, with surrounding properties zoned light industrial. It is very desirable should the road ever be extended. So we would be deeming it surplus for future development.
Yeah, it could be one the adjacent landowners would want and could use, yep. Okay,
Here we have a 15.53 acre property that runs along County Road 2 west of Iroquois, which is zoned rural. The surrounding properties are also zoned rural with some tourist commercial and general commercial in there as well. It could be developed in various ways. I know I personally would love to see a developer in there build some homes, but it would be deemed surplus for open market.
that's their ward.
My opinion on this one is I would like to see us maybe sever it up a little bit. The only reason I'm suggesting that is because I think if we sell it all as one, it would be bought. I agree. I think it'd be great to see some housing in there, but I'd also like to maybe save a chunk of it for, affordable housing, because I know this is one of the properties that they were looking for. So I would like to not sell it as a whole. That's my personal opinion, but yeah, definitely for housing, I think is a great opportunity, but I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone else has one.
not service today, but service is not far, right? So if there could be
And that's
an
what I was gonna
opportunity,
ask the
right.
Mayor Broad, like,
Yeah.
roughly how close are the services,
I think
Mr. Villeneuve?
Dennis is looking up now.
Sorry, through you, Mayor, I'm just trying to get my bearing, the services shouldn't be that, like, they're not that far, because I'm just,
It would,
that,
just to be the roundabout, right? 'Cause
yeah,
it-
that's just, it's just west of the roundabout,
Right.
so it shouldn't have an issue of getting the water
If you
services
wanted
there.
to, would be
Yeah.
a short run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about a kilometer or less than a kilometer, yeah. Councilor Vino?
It would be less than a kilometer, because
Yeah.
it's right at the roundabout, that's where the
Yeah.
water main goes through.
Just curious, how would that affect any of the other people in there? Could we tie into some services, like provide services then to some more people that are coming out of there? Like I can't zoom in right now, but it seems like that could be a benefit to some people that don't have services out there now.
Correct.
Yeah, on the north side of the whole north side of the road as well, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
And
right.
they're all on wells, maybe one day they might wanna
Switch over.
touch over, so.
Very good. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, another thing on that one is just whenever we're talking about services, how far away, I know that we don't own the land, but if you go through the country, there is services at Craig Packaging. It's shorter if we went that way, maybe. I don't know how we would do it. Rather than run number 2, it could be shorter. I'm just throwing that out there, but
Yeah, and
You'd
or.
be going through private
right. Yeah, no,
property,
of course, we
but
would,
just-
we could
just
do
saying.
it, we could do an assessment on that with the,
Yeah.
and or from that subdivision, right?
Yeah.
Depending how the water,
yeah,
wastewater is
yeah,
through the
Brian-
subdivision.
Bridlewood,
Yeah, Bridlewood, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
yeah.
This one is a half-acre lot on County Road 8, zone rural. It's not serviced currently. It would be a very good location for a home, but it would be deemed surplus for open market as well.
Councilor Ward?
Are these old site triangles for highway? Like, is this old like,
How did they come about, is your
yeah,
question?
because they're very small, and even to build a house on 0.51 of an acre without being serviced, like, I'm not even sure, that'd be really tight
Right.
with
Ms.
septic and a
Moore?
well.
It is possible to do some of the smaller systems, and especially on county roads with their setbacks, sometimes the septic system will be in the front yard. So it'll push it back a little bit more. I'm not sure how it came about, but certainly something we can talk to the counties with.
Because there's quite a few of them that are triangular shaped, so I'm just wondering if they,
And or just for the adjacent landowners
yeah.
to have as part of their property, right? 'Cause, you know, I think some of the conversation is we have to pay the taxes on these.
Yeah.
And we're not collecting, well, we're paying ourselves, I guess, but paying county tax and school tax, right? So some of these pieces just being combined with adjacent properties might be a benefit if we have no future use for it, or
Yeah.
even not even understand how it came about in the day.
Yeah, because the next one is the one that concerns me the most about,
Right.
like a triangle, because it's on the county, like the corner there.
Yeah, it kind of is surrounded, right, by the turn.
You're thinking like sightline triangles?
Yeah. I just, like, the first one's not so bad, but the one on County Road 18 and Thunder Road there,
I wonder if the road originally went there.
it's possible.
It did, eh?
Oh.
Tommy, remember?
They probably straightened it out, right?
Yeah.
Time they probably straightened it out.
Yeah, they probably,
Make it more of a 90-degree bend.
Bend,
Yeah.
To make it easier to see. probably.
I mean, I'm okay with marketing it, and I'm also okay with just talking to the neighbor and landowner.
yeah, a few of these that are, seem like adjacent might be the best.
Yeah, so in that one right there, there would be that piece of land that we're talking about, plus then we would also own a road allowance, I
Yeah.
believe, in there, and then there would be the neighbor to the,
Right.
I guess it'd be the south, so there'd also be that road allowance in there, or there should be a road allowance in there.
You can kind of see it.
Yeah.
I think that's where the old road.
I think so.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Go ahead.
Moving on to the last one. It is a 1-acre lot zoned agricultural on Carr Road in Chesterville. It's currently being farmed right now, so hopefully would be attractive to the farmer who owns the adjacent lot. Everything around it's zoned ag as well. If I had to guess. So
Very strange to own some random.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, as soon as I saw this one kind of just threw up like a red flag. I'm like, how did this come about? Like, it just brought me to like, on my farm, I have a building lot severed off that is now right in the middle of a field, and it just almost seemed like, did grandpa not tell the grandson that there was a lot severed off there and just it got forgotten about and they forgot to pay their property taxes? Like, I just like, how did this come about? Like, that's the first thing that came to mind. And so why is it sitting there and it's being farmed, and why? That was the first thing that came to my mind, was just why, like how?
Lister.
Very good. So I think overall, kind of synopses, 4 points, and please add on to my comments. Obviously, we definitely identified some surplus adjacent properties that could go with other properties. Certainly some that we could just put up for sale to see what the market bears. Others, further conversations, a couple Parker pieces in the public piece in front of Seaway High School, maybe get some consultation on that. And then we did need to do a few wetland surveying, follow-ups to see, what's the best scenario for those lands.
No, Mayor Broad, I totally agree. I don't want to sit on the ones though that we've kind of nodded our head and said, let's do something with it. Let's just advance to the next key information report, and let's get these on the books and moving forward, and then we can pivot and adjust once we get the actual report. Question for you though, one of the properties that's absent is the one down by the sewage plant.
The old lagoon.
Is that?
Yeah, it's absent, so I think that one we should do a test on what we could do with being old lagoon.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment on that, Ms. Warren? Oh, turn yours off, Mark, maybe. We got too many on. Oh, I could have done it. Oh, I forgot.
Yes, no, that was one of the ones that we did talk about, but then it come up that the old lagoon was there, and that it was filled in, so we just need to understand what we're able to do with it.
Okay.
If it can be built on, or if it's something that we should be retaining.
I wouldn't mind receiving a report on what that program actually looks like. Are we just talking a couple geotech reports? Are we talking, more than that? So I wouldn't mind getting a report on the exploratory work you're proposing, and then we can decide if we want to move forward with that.
For sure.
Because I do think it's a parcel of land that, is probably good parcel of land to develop on. What that looks like, I don't know yet, but I would be in favor of at least getting some costing and a testing program together, and then bringing it back to council as a key information report, and we can decide if we want to move forward with that.
Any other comments? So I think we would expect for the August meeting to have key information report on some of these properties, and then some follow-ups will come thereafter. But a future meeting based on timelines to do some of this work. Councillor Smith?
So just moving forward with this, are we saying yay or nay on each of these properties right now?
No. So committee of the whole,
Okay.
just open for discussion. So I think just based on some of our comments, the if we come back, here's 10 that you kind of nod your head, let's do something with, and then we vote then to say that, yeah, we will do that, and then we'll do some more work on some of the other properties, for sure. But yeah, no, definitely just open discussion tonight, and then have a actual vote on, yes, we want to sell that at a future meeting, yeah. Correct, Clerk LeBrun? Perfect, yeah. Okay. Any other comments on the properties? Okay. I have a motion that resolve council rise reconvene an open session at 7:48 PM. Carry out actions specified during the committee of the whole, so I think you captured the actions. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, back to the agenda. Okay, action items. So action A, PE 2024-07, proposed wireless communications tower. Ms. Moran.
Great, thanks. So as discussed during the delegation, South Dundas received a wireless telecommunication tower proposal from Rogers at 10969 Gilmore Road in Princeton. They identified the need to add a 60-meter tower with walk-in equipment cabinet to maintain reliable wireless coverage in the area. SED is the governing body, and they required a public consultation process. So Rogers held that pre-consultation with staff and then further advertised the public process in the Mooresburg Leader on May 29th and the Chesterville Record on May 30th, and then also circulated notices to all landowners within 180 meters, which is of the proposed installation, for the proposed installation. 30 days are now complete, and they received that one comment that you heard earlier. So provincial policy and county official plan policy maintain that planning for infrastructure and public services should be coordinated and integrated with land use planning. And so the subject lands are identified as prime agricultural land, but the OP policies do direct towers to non-prominent areas that do not fragment agricultural lands. The proposal is located within an existing cluster of agricultural buildings and away from those agricultural fields. And so since the proposal does meet provincial policy and the official plan policies, Rogers is requesting a letter of concurrence to be prepared and provided.
Comments, questions? I have a motion that Council South Dundas considers the Rogers Communication Inc. proposed complete and that the municipality approves the assessment of the process Rogers has undertaken to date for the construction of a telecommunication tower in South Dundas to maintain and improve broadband internet service, and further direct staff to provide a formal letter of concurrence. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move to 8B. Deputy Mayor will step away. So PE 2024-08, Dutch Meadows Phase 2 Red Line. Ms. Moore.
All right, so thank you. The last time we saw this file, I prepared a report detailing Swank Construction's proposal for the existing condominium block on the original draft plan approval. That proposal contained 32 townhouse units fronting on 2 new streets off of Rotterdam Way. And through that detailed design phase of the development process, the engineering estimates exceeded the expectations of the developer. And so in consultation with staff, Swank came back to us and prepared a red line edit to the existing draft plan approval, which proposes to use the existing infrastructure along Rotterdam Way to develop 7 single detached dwelling lots on the south side of the road, and then also leaving a road allowance along the western side of the existing cemetery to access the balance of the property. So in keeping with the provincial policy and official plan policies, the proposal makes use of existing municipal water and wastewater services. Stormwater has been previously addressed through design of the initial pond, and so though a log grading plan and sediment and erosion control plan will be required as part of the detailed design phase. So no new roadways are proposed to be constructed, and cash in lieu of parkland was previously provided. SEG deemed the red line edit as minor, and so didn't require any additional public meeting. Favorable comments been received by SD&G in support of the draft plan approval. And so I've provided a list of conditions to be forwarded to SD&G for their consideration. And staff recommend that council supports the red line edit of the plan for draft plan approval.
Comments, discussion? Councillor Ward.
Yeah, so I want to start by saying I don't have an issue with the change. I just wanted to say, like, it's really unfortunate that we're going from 32 units to 7, but I can appreciate why, right? So this is me standing on my soapbox explaining to the province that once again, you know, making affordable dense units is cost prohibitive, and now we're seeing developers pivot back to the single family detached, which for a lot of people is out of reach. So it's just unfortunate, but we're seeing it now, and I can totally appreciate why they've gone this way, and I don't have any issues with it, but it's just, again, a reflection of the current market, and it's really unfortunate that we went from 32 units to 7, but that's the current reality of cost. So anyways, that's just me. Thanks.
No, and for sure, and those are the type of things we need to reach out with our MPP and the province to keep working on, and maybe some of the other site plan might get changed in the other way, to add more units if things are, change or become more easier in that way. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor Broad. Just, what was the issue? Was it just like the sewers, like they just, it was like not large enough, not enough capacity, or?
It was the cost.
Just
The
plain
amount of
cost?
infrastructure that they need to get down the roads, just added up to more than they expected.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have a motion that council supports plan subdivision application 01SD S 2023 red line edit based on the conditions of the approval described in Schedule A of the action request dated July 17, 2024, and further in these conditions be forwarded to the United Counties SD&G to the applicant representing their Sally's formal comments on the proposal. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. So we're going to move to 8E. CS 2024-10, stop up and close request, Valcraft Homes. Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and through you. So Valcraft Homes purchased an existing draft-approved subdivision that included roads that were already deeded to the municipality. And in order to proceed with connecting to the existing roadways and utilities, Valcraft included lands owned by the municipality in their draft plan, and further require those lands to form part of their application for absolute title ahead of the final approval. So the report before you tonight is just asking council to authorize staff to proceed to stop up and close portions of the undeveloped roadway as identified in the attachment. Any questions? We're happy to answer them.
All right, seeing none, motion of the Council of Municipalities of Dundas direct staff to forward the lands identified in this report to the other counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, and I gotta get to the right, sorry. I didn't change my paperwork. This is E. The council authorized staff to start the necessary process to stop up and close the portions of the undeveloped roadway blocks 23, 24, 25, Plan 100, the whole of Thompson Drive, Plan 100, parts 1 to 7 of the draft reference plan, former Matilda Township, now South Dundas. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, put these back in the right order. Okay. Want to grab the deputy? Okay, so now we'll move to C, P 2024-09 County Official Plan Growth Management Study. Ms. Moran.
Thank you, Mayor Broad. So the second phase of the growth management study at the counties has been stalled since the first draft of the provincial policy statements came out last year. Since then, the second draft of the now called provincial planning statements has gone through consultation and is anticipated to be finalized shortly. So due to the delay in provincial direction for growth management contained in the policy statements, the county has decided to proceed with bringing select properties that are ready to go. So that includes planned phases of subdivisions just outside the settlement area boundary, key employment areas, and housekeeping mapping changes. Staff have been in constant communication with landowners throughout the first phase of the growth management study, and during this waiting period, they're eagerly anticipating their lands to be included or swapped. So I'll go through the 6 amendments that staff are recommending to forward to SD&G to be included in their official plan amendment. So the first property, Sunshine Sky Farms Inc. is the landowner. And this property is adjacent to the Iroquois settlement area boundary. They submitted a planning and preliminary servicing report in June 2022. The property is approximately 20 hectares in total. It's currently in the urban settlement area, the residential district, so that's about 3.75 hectares, so that's that pink portion that you sort of see outlined with the red outline. But we're proposing to include the entire thing in the urban settlement area and designate it as a residential district. Municipal water and municipal wastewater are within proximity to the subject area, and an ongoing evaluation of the water and wastewater plant capacities indicate that there is capacity that remains. Drainage patterns have been identified using LiDAR and include 2 separate catchment areas. And future development applications would include detailed design and detailed calculations for design water flows, as well as a stormwater management plan. So I just sort of included the official plan map, as well as an aerial photo. So Sunshine Sky Farms, this is the second property. They also own land adjacent to the Morseburg settlement area boundary. They submitted a planning and preliminary servicing report in June 2022 as well, which shows that investment that this landowner has made in their properties. So the total property size for this property is 97.5 hectares in total, and currently 14.5 hectares are currently included in the Morseburg settlement area boundary, but they don't have frontage. So currently, official plan designation, 14.5 hectares are urban settlement area, employment district, but no frontage. And then the balance are currently in the rural district, and it's 83 acres. So they've proposed sort of a breakdown of 3. So they're proposing, and we'd like to propose as well, to include all of it in the settlement area boundary, but then the fronting on County Road 2, 33 hectares would be proposed to be designated residential district, and they base that on about a 300 home development that could address future housing needs. The second 10 acres to be designated commercial district, and they were basing that off of a similar style to Canadian Tire, with additional allocation for other similarly sized commercial development. And then the balance 36 hectares, which would reflect the existing size of the Morseburg Industrial Park. And ideally, the access would be off of County Road 31, so to avoid the residential area. There is a provincially significant wetland boundary just sort of to the north of the property, but of course, through the development process, they would have to hire somebody to evaluate that. Municipal water and wastewater infrastructure is within proximity, and drainage patterns have been identified using LiDAR and appear to include only one single catchment area. There would be a 30-meter setback from that provincially significant wetland, where once they've identified the boundary. And then, again, future development applications would include detailed design and detailed calculations. So that's that second property. So you've got their proposal. Sorry, the commercial is at County Road 2, and the residential is in the middle. And then I've got the official plan map for you, and then an aerial photo. So the third property, this is land currently owned by 1737814 Ontario Inc., and we're proposing to designate it employment lands. In June, staff met with the proponent to discuss potential future development of the subject land. It's approximately 220 hectares, and currently 70 hectares are zoned general industrial based on the 2006 official plan designation of employment lands. So it was submitted as part of the 2018 official plan, but the ministry removed it because I think they were trying to link the prime agricultural areas. So currently, most of the land is designated rural district, and then the portion just to the west of Flag Road is designated agricultural resource land. And then we are proposing to designate all of the rural land, and then as well what is currently zoned, which was included into the 2006 official plan as employment lands, to designate that whole strip as employment lands. And then there would be approximately 60 hectares remaining agricultural resource land. The fourth property, this would be more of a swap to the rural settlement area. So there were 3 severances that the landowner did to manage their future rural residential, to manage their lands. And essentially what we're proposing is to remove 2.5 hectares and then add 1 hectare of that back, just along the county road to make it more easily developable. And the 5th property, again, it's an urban settlement area swap, and this is in Williamsburg. They are trying to manage their agricultural holdings. So this swap would remove 0.35 hectares of settlement area designated residential district and add 0.64 hectares to an existing residential property that was severed off. And then lastly, the 6th property is an area in the rural settlement area in Dixon's Corners. So the landowner has requested to get a severance, and it's basically, it would fill would be residential infill because there is a residential property just to the east. So currently, I think it was an error in GIS, but some of it's unsymbolized, but the intent would be that it was agricultural resource land. And then we're proposing to add 0.7 hectares of rural settlement area and include the neighboring property as well. And so those are the proposals. I'll turn it back to you.
Well, thanks, Ms. Bourne. Certainly glad to see 6 property owners are interested in moving ahead with potential plans. So this is all part of that process. Any questions for Ms. Bourne?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
a couple questions. Not really for Ms. Moran, but more for Dennis. On some of the lands that, and in particular the one, just give me a second here as I scroll this thing up and down, the Sunshine Sky Farms, generally employment and commercial lands have increased sanitary flows. Just wondering if these have been evaluated in terms of existing capacity through our capacity studies. And if we would, are we going to have, I know we have an abundance of capacity in our systems, but like I say, when we're talking commercial and employment, it generates increased flows, both water and wastewater. So I just wonder if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. That area hasn't been added to the rate study, but I can definitely, if this is something that, we're entertaining and developing there, and I can speak with the engineering firm and seeing, what kind of capacity we would have for this section, if that would be something you guys would like to entertain.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, I would suggest we should do that to any of the properties that we are changing. If it does have an impact to our systems, I think we should go through that process.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, like I said, we've been, the areas that we have targeted is the one, like we put Valcraft into the subdivision, or into the rate study, and we put in Dutch Meadows. All those properties are all part of the rate study, but the areas that aren't on there are the subdivisions that we haven't talked, like this piece of property right here, we'd have to bring it up to them.
Very good. Other comments, questions? All right, saying none, I have a motion that the Council of Sally South Dundas direct staff to forward the lands identified in this report to the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry in support of growth management as part of its general housekeeping update. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councilor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And last action request, 8D, PF 2024-09 Morrisburg Arena Live Barn, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Facilities, David Jansen.
So thank you, Mayor. So council in front of you tonight is a report with regards to Live Barn, which is a third-party subscription-based system for basically airing hockey games in small arenas. They're currently in about 4,000 and rapidly growing arenas across Canada and the States. Staff were approached by minor hockey this spring, who were very interested in adding the service to the arena. The agreement does have the ability for minor hockey to enter into the agreement with Live Barn and us just sign an addendum with regards to allowing it in our facility, which is what I'm recommending today. I did reach out to minor hockey, and one of the things I recommended is that they reach out to the other user groups within the arena. So you'll see in the motion tonight that it allows me to issue the addendum and move forward with it, but with the feedback from the other groups. I know the skating club's already gotten back that they're not interested in using the system, but the junior Cs are considering partnering with minor hockey on it. The logistics of that are still being worked out, but don't affect us entering into what we're trying to do tonight. So just keeping the administration side of it moving for those two parties when they're ready to go. Outside of that, it's an added level of service in the arena that comes at no cost to the municipality. They install their own internet. All we provide is a plug in the wall with a little bit of additional electricity, but they run their own internet. And outside of that, I know there's a lot of fine print in the agreement, so I included that for everybody. But some of the key takeaways from there, and I think the biggest one for us as the arena provider, is that there is a 6-year exclusivity agreement in there. So even if minor hockey were to cancel this, we would basically not be able to have a different provider come into the arena for 6 years. It's pretty low risk, so I'm not too worried about that. Outside of that, staff did reach out to Cornwall, who's had this for about 2 years, and staff there had positive feedback about it. So I think it's a great added service for the arena at basically no cost to the taxpayers, and the administration is going to be taken care of by some of the user groups, which is a win for everybody. And other than that, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions, comments? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Broad. How exactly is it going to work that if there's one user group that says that they don't want it, like for instance, like figure skating or whatever, but there is one that does, does staff have to input like a nice time schedule to them, like constantly to have it updated, and now it broadcasts, now it doesn't? Just curious how that works.
So through you, Mayor Broad, I can't speak to the exact logistics of it because it's more been minor hockey that's been looking into the logistics of it, but it would be, my understanding is it's installed in the minor hockey office, and then they'd have control basically to flip the switch and turn it on. So it'd basically always be in the off position, and then when there's minor hockey in there, they'd go up and they'd flip it into the on position, and then it'd be available to stream. But
Yeah. All right, yeah, good. Okay, motion that council approve the installation of the live burn in the Morrisburg Arena, and that the Director of Parks, Recreation and Facilities authorized to sign the vendor agreement upon feedback from the Junior C Hockey Club, Minor Hockey, and Morrisburg Skating Club. Moved by Councilor Vino, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay, bylaws. So we're going to move to the added FS 2024-47. Treasurer Stewart will speak on the bylaw.
Through you, Mayor Broad. I guess further to discussions earlier in closed session, this is to approve the bylaw. The bylaw 2024-47.
Clerk LeBrun.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor Broad. So the bylaw before you is to change the normal retirement age from 65 to 60 for full-time permanent staff in the South Dundas Fire and Emergency services that are actively involved in firefighting. So we had to, in order to accomplish this, we needed to bring a bylaw back through council to make this amendment on the back end through OMERS.
Comments, discussion? Very good. So have a motion that we accept bylaw FS 2024-47 to change the retirement age of full-time firefighters from age 65 to age 60. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Boards and committees. First up, Youth Working Group. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have met a few times, so the 3rd and the 17th, And so we've been discussing our, I guess, next steps with regards to the youth event. So we're still tracking to do an event in August, a ball hockey tournament. And there's also going to be an event, I believe, the weekend before as well for those who are more interested in arts and media kind of ideas. So we're trying to capture all groups. And we were very fortunate at our last meeting. We had a good discussion about the strategic plan that council has put out in draft form. So the youth have provided their comments, and I will send that through to administration. And they had some really good ideas and some achievable items that council can probably do within our term. So I'll make sure those are shared as well with council.
Thank you. Great. SC County Council meeting Monday, so today, a couple days ago. A few highlights to mention. Pivoted on some bridge and road work. Had some reports. Had the open expression of interest for warden for 2025, which was Councillor Lang and Councillor McGinnis. We did have a committee of the whole meeting, and we discussed the request that came from us from on planning services for additional support through the counties to help us in our planning department. Had a great discussion. Everybody spoke. It was a mixed settlement on that particular role, how it should be filled, and in the end, we reviewed all the shared services collaboration that we're doing throughout the SDNG counties, the 6 municipalities, which was really good. Some learnings on some activities happening, but I would say that at this time, they felt like they wanted to support us and support us through the planning department, but felt that most likely we should hire internally for that role. So Deputy Mayor and I withdrew the request during the meeting at that time, and so we'll execute, go to the market to hire the internal piece. So still going to be working obviously with the planning department, succession planning, big shortage of planners obviously around. So we'll continue to work on that, and we're going to reach out to the counties for support, for training, coaching, et cetera on that. And the second piece of that was a lot of the other municipalities, townships, had said we should have an open discussion on a few of these topics. So I think that's where it was left, that, hey, let's come back and say, hey, is there some opportunities for some other shared services in certain areas that we have lots of overlap. And my example was, at the county level, they don't have any water, wastewater technicians or services. So that's us, right? That's internally. Manager Villeneuve has his team and we work on that. But planning is at both levels, right? So there's an opportunity in the planning area to do some overlap. Roads, there's a few others that we do some overlap. So we'll continue that conversation. Anything like that, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, no, the only thing I would add, and it was if anybody read the Cornwall Freeholder? Yeah. Yeah, what we've driven is perhaps having a discussion if planning should be a centralized department within the county versus everybody having their own little planning department. So I think that's a positive thing. And I think they were, as you said, I think majority of the councillors were kind of, yeah, we should explore it. I think they were just a little bit hesitant about just having one employee hired through the county that would only be assigned to one municipality. So there's just things we got to work through, and I'm confident that we will eventually. So yeah, that was a very good discussion.
Very good. Yeah, that was about it at County Council for highlights for us. Yep.
No, just one of the other highlights, I think it's and I kind of picked up on it because we're going to be talking about it later, not specifically, but there was an amendment that we, or a resolution that we passed on the federal and provincial government being more of a partner in the infrastructure funding with the municipalities. It used to be the old gas tax, but basically, the funding on that is based on population. And if, for example, and I'm going to extreme here, if one of our neighboring municipalities grows by, 10%, well, they get more money, we get less money. So we're trying to, work, or we're trying to have a voice through the Warden's Caucus to say, look, we need to streamline this a little bit. We need to have a little bit of a fairer approach, and let's eliminate the red tape, and perhaps it shouldn't be based on, you know, growth of one municipality, and then you penalize other municipalities for it. So I think that's important that we support and continue supporting that for the municipal infrastructure.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that. Councillor Smith?
I did have a question about the warden position. There was talk of switching that over to a 2-year term. What did that go ahead?
So we had a committee of the whole meeting, I think last fall, and it was deemed at that time not to move ahead with any motions to change it to 2 years. But yeah, that was a topic of conversation. Yeah.
However, I still think the current
Could run.
warden can still run if they so choose.
You're not prohibited from running 2 years in a row. I think the thought was to make it a bylaw that you were in for 2 years, but yeah, so you can run for 2 years if you wish, yeah. BIA?
Yeah, so unfortunately I have been preoccupied with some family matters recently, and I did miss the BIA meeting, so I don't have an update either. Crystal?
Through you, Mayor Broad, I'd be happy to give one. So we did have an informal final BIA meeting on Tuesday, July 15th. And the purpose of the meeting was really to give the former BIA members an opportunity to give us feedback on, especially to give us feedback on where the levy reserve should be allocated. We also had the 2023 financial statements that we reviewed and the year-to-date for 2024 that Treasurer Stewart prepared for the meeting. So overall, we got really good feedback. We will be bringing a report in the future to council that reflects some of the sentiment of the former BIA members. And what to do in the future with those reserves that haven't been spent by the BIA. Right now, they're in a reserve fund, and I think the 12 people who were at the meeting were satisfied that no money is going to be spent without coming to council and bringing a report. So I think overall it was a good meeting. And then there were some questions about a potential working group, a beautification working group. So they'll be connecting with me in the future to see how it can be reinvented, because there's definitely still some interest on the beautification aspect of the plaza.
Yes, go ahead.
Just want to, if I may, we had a waterfront committee meeting
Yes,
last night.
go ahead.
And so there's a couple quick points that I wanted to bring up just because it's timely. So on the heels of our last council meeting approving in concept the multi-use pad, we spoke last night about, I guess, ways forward on the fundraising initiatives. And what we identified is a need for some specific help just for that specific project. We are looking for 2 more members of the waterfront committee, but not to add any more members to the committee as a whole, but just get some community involvement in the development of that particular project, similar to the Earl Baker Park, whenever that was done. So we are going to be going out to the public looking for help on that, hoping to put together a little working group that can assist with fundraising, design, implementation, the whole work. So that's forthcoming. And also just a note, because it's coming up on Saturday, we are presenting Jaws at the beach on Saturday night. So I wanted to, yeah, I wanted to, and you're allowed to float in the water while you watch. They will be the TV or projector will be facing the river.
Good. So awesome. Very good. Any other board meetings?
Yeah.
Committee meetings?
Yeah. Iroquois Waterfront, I had one on June 26. We had a couple delegations. One was from John Johnson United, representing United Loyalist Association of Canada. They approached the Waterfront Committee about erecting some signage along the waterfront to kind of, again, to, as he said, historic educational plaques that represents kind of first settlers in the Iroquois area. You know, for instance, the first church, the first people and whatnot. So the committee was kind of in favor in principle, very early stages. So they're going to work with our committee on developing the signage and whatnot. So that'll hopefully eventually get erected along the waterfront. And then just going to go back in my notes a little bit. Seaway Horticulture Society did a little bit of a presentation for us. They've offered their services to Iroquois on their plantings and wildflower plantings and all that good stuff along the pathways as well. So that was well accepted. Other than that, it was just moving along with the normal discussions about trees and benches and pathways and lighting. The lighting is coming along really good. So they're excited. They'd like to see things moving forward. So yeah, next meeting I believe is July 20. Why is 27th come to mind? Why? Because if I just turn my screen over, it probably says 24th of July.
Nice.
So thank you.
Councilor Reno?
Yeah, that made me think of it. John also visited us last night for the same idea from the United Empire Loyalists.
Oh, good.
And so if you walk the waterfront along the Morrisburg between the dockside and the amphitheater, that we already have kind of plaques all along there explaining the seaway history. So it'd be continuation of that similar signage all the way along kind of towards down to the beach. And also want to point out we do have 2 new members forthcoming to the Morrisburg Waterfront Committee that will be coming to council for
Nominations. Yeah, okay.
to induct them,
Yeah,
or
yes.
the term for that. So yes, I
Very
want to
good.
mention that.
Good, thank you. Accept their request. Very good. Okay, any other committee evenings? All right, seeing none. Consent agenda. 11A, KR 2024, our Q2 budgets to actual. B, statistics for building and bylaw for June 2024. D, information from AMO, homeless encampments in Ontario. E, information Winchester District Memorial Hospital Foundation financial statements. F, information of the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing Update, Bill 185. G, a resolution from West Nipissing, Champlain Bridge Rehabilitation. H, resolution for the town of Coburg, amendment to subsection 2716 of the Heritage Act. I, resolution from the township of Pestle Lynch, MFIPPA modernization. J, resolution from Tay Valley Township, basic income guarantee. And K, resolution Corporation Township of MO, new provincial municipal fiscal framework. I have a motion that all the items listed under consent agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so a couple of discussion items. We could start with A, recommendation, Economic Community Development Committee physician recruitment. Tia Fraser, are you speaking on this one? Very good.
So as the mayor and deputy mayor know, our Economic and Community Development Committee is very eager to be working with just towards doctor recruitment. So they're asking that council be engaged in physician recruitment, bring South Stormont in on that as well, and determine a budget to be used for physician recruitment.
Yeah, so I think we had a delegation with Dr. Rivington. We've had Dr. Rivington, Marilyn Crabtree, to a couple of our economic and community involvement meetings. So I think this is just to engage and direct staff to come back with a recommendation forthcoming based on the work communications with South Stormont in conjunction with South Stormont to continue. And I think I mentioned it before, is like to create our position statement, how we want to market, and then whatever type of budget we might be able to think about going into our next budget season. Anything to add?
No.
We're good. Okay. And then Councillor Ward, a letter from the Youth Climate Action Working Group.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So a young youth who many probably know in the community, and she's done a lot lately, and she's been recognized for many things that she's done in the community
Yes, she
recently.
has, yes.
Very bright individual has reached out to me because her and a few of her peers have recognized that they would like to have a voice in the community for environmental initiatives. Reason being, obviously, our children inherit the earth from us, right? So I'm sure everyone's familiar with that concept, and this particular peer group would like to have a voice in our own community about some of the environmental initiatives going on. I know, Mayor, we did discuss when we started talking about committees when we first got in, that we were looking at some sort of environment committee, you know, looking at tree planting, et
Yes,
cetera.
yes.
And this particular youth did mention that in her proposal, that this is perhaps something that they could be involved in. So I was hoping that council could discuss perhaps forming this as a working group or a committee of council. And then I, of course, would like to express my interest in sitting on that committee to help them get to their goals. So some of the things she outlined, just so council can understand where they're looking to contribute. So they would like to fundraise to contribute to environmental initiatives like tree planting and butterfly gardens, et cetera. They also would like to perhaps, you know, give feedback on some of the municipal operations when we're looking for it on, you know, one of the ideas there was the electric Zamboni and how that reduced emissions. So continuing that, looking at where we can basically include things to reduce our carbon emissions and decrease our carbon footprint as a municipality. And I guess you know, we do, as a municipality, have some environmental events that we do. We do the annual tree giveaway through South Nation, but we also have the All About the River event that I think all of us attended there on the weekend. So again, having a booth there to talk about South Dundas and the environment in South Dundas, not just the river. So I'm hoping that I can get council support on this one and we can move forward and direct staff to come back with something on how we can help this initiative forward.
Yeah, I think some of our earlier conversations with tree canopy and, you know, as some lands get cleared, you know, even tonight we looked at a couple landfill sites that, geez, we could plant more trees around. We even discussed when we were discussing Matilda's landfill, you know, we could plant trees all around on the properties that we own, right? So being all part of that environmental piece, they could be part of that, right? And do some legwork and get us steer in the right direction. And anytime we have use wanting to step up and be involved, that's great. Yeah, any other comments? You know, so direct staff to come back with some terms on a committee led by Councillor Ward. That'd be excellent. Thank you, Councillor Ward. Thank you very much. And then notice of motion on the 13A, support for Township of Amarillo operational budget funding. Just trying to pull this up. Stewart.
Through you, Mayor Broad. At a previous meeting, Councillor Ward did ask that staff return with a resolution for support of the Township of Amaranth, as well as some financial information. So a few things that I did look at. It was mentioned that there was a 1.2 billion in operation support. It is over a 3-year period. One other thing that I did look at, there was discussions about how their tax rate is significantly lower than ours, which is the case. The other thing to look at is their average assessment value is quite a bit higher than ours. So ultimately, it results in they're collecting more taxes because of that higher assessment. So their average tax bill would be $4,900 thereabout, as opposed to our $2,900. So they are collecting more. And I guess with that, it's probably something that the government should consider, that they are collecting that much more in taxes versus what we are. So, you know, there should be some, you know, equities that way. Another thing that I did look at is the financial information return, which is something that every municipality and city has to report on every year, various information, including financial. The one thing that I did notice, I have it here. What I looked at, it's actually Schedule 10 from the financial information return. On that schedule, it shows the government transfers and the grants that are provided to each city and municipality. So when you take that and look at it based on total revenue, if you look at the City of Toronto versus the municipality of South Dundas, their percentage is higher than ours. I looked at 5 years, and each year it is higher, in some cases significantly. If we look at 2022, the government transfers and grants over revenue, it was 28.3%, which ours is only 23.6. So higher for 2022. 2021 as well, they had 30.6% of their total revenue in grants and transfers, whereas we had 23.4%. So
They
there
fall
is.
behind quickly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So just some things that I want to point out there. So we did prepare a resolution for council.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Treasurer Stewart, for getting that information. Any comments? I do have the resolution to read. Councilor Ward?
Yeah, I think that this comment goes back to my comment about what happened in Dutch Meadows, and this is also what's happening to the deputy mayor's point about what you support at county council level, is that we need more support from the province if they want us to grow. And I think it's unfair of them to favor a city that already does not have an issue growing. Who doesn't want to develop in Toronto? That's where the money is, right? So it's unfortunate that they're favored, especially significantly so, especially also when they already have the access to the revenue that we don't, because we are limited by MPAC's assessment, so, which is also a provincial body. So thank you to Treasurer Stewart for getting the details. I'm happy with our resolution as it is, and yeah, hopefully we get further provincial support, but we can keep trying.
We keep trying. That's all we do. Keep raising awareness, keep learning, keep writing letters. So I have a motion, whereas the City of Toronto has recently received new provincial funding of $1.2 billion in operating support over 3 years and $3 billion in capital support over 10. And whereas the City of Toronto does have a substantial lower combined tax rate than the municipality of South Dundas, however, assessment value of a property is $685,000 versus $211,000 respectively. So the average tax bill is $49.73 versus $2,900 here in South Dundas. Whereas 2018-22 comparison of federal provincial transfers, conditionally grants as a percentage of total revenue between the City of Toronto and municipality of South Dundas indicates the greater funding availability to the City of Toronto based on total revenue, data provided by financial information return. Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas supports the township for the call on the province of Ontario to treat all municipalities fairly and provide equivocal representation, operational budget funding amounts to all Ontario municipalities. And further, that a copy of this resolution of support be forwarded to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Honorable Paul Calandry, Ministry of Municipal Affairs, MP Eric Duncan, MPP Nolan Quinn, and AMO. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Thank you for the resolution and thanks for the work on that. Ratification bylaw. The bylaw number 2024-54 being a bylaw. Sorry, before I read that, are there any other notices of motions for anybody tonight? No, seeing none, okay. So I have a bylaw that number 2024-54 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. And a motion to council now adjourn to meet at call of the chair. Councillor Ward, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. So as we bring a close to our meeting of the council and his team and staff, visitors, delegations for Wednesday, July 17th, 2024, a few comments I'd like to make. I'd like to certainly thank the first 6 months, and we had the auditor here tonight, you know, of all the hard work in all their departments, water and wastewater, recreation, facilities, transportation, treasury, admin, building, bylaw, planning as well. But certainly thinking about our fire service and our firefighters. We lost a firefighter recently, John Cook. Commend Fire Chief Aldred Hughes, Station Chief, Deputy Chief Ray Hunter, and all of the fire crews, retired fire crews, former firefighters throughout Ontario, traveled to Iroquois last Wednesday for the ceremony for John Cook. It was touching and incredible what the fire service did. So thank you to the fire service for that moment. All about the river. Thank you to volunteers. Had a great event at the river. Thank you to that crew. Councillor Vino mentioned earlier about trying time for his family. We did celebrate on Saturday Harlan Vino's trucking 60th anniversary, and Harlan did pass away last week. So condolences to Councillor Vino and his family. But great story time last Saturday and reminiscing of how Harlan Vino bought one truck and moved 5 kids to Morrisburg so they didn't work in the mines. And that's how it started. So your Uncle Randy spent some time with the microphone and told the stories. And it was an incredible story of how Harlan Vino's trucking is here today and how now to the grandkids, yourself and Lance LePage are now at the helm of that. So congratulations to the entire Vino family. And then lastly, moving forward, Saturday, Thompson Lumber celebrating 160 years of business. It's got to be like one of the oldest businesses in Ontario, for sure. Incredible that that's been the family for 160 years. It's just incredible. So we'll be there Saturday morning supporting the Thompson family at 10 o'clock for the official ceremonies. They have a lot of events, a golf tournament going on, some fundraising, barbecues, et cetera, going on. So thank you to that. So as we bring the meeting to a close, thank you to staff for preparing a nice agenda. Thank you to the council team for the first 6 months of the year and a bit. And let's look forward to the next 2 quarters. So for everybody here in South Dundas, thank you for watching and good night.